goes against protest, what will happen is the question, and the only answer we have is we have to wait and see. Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Combat Talk. As always, I'm your host Sophia, and today
Artlist.io
will be different. Recently, different MMA news outlets have been talking about fights that supposedly the fans want to see over this year. I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion on if these fights should
music licensing
or should not.
reimagined.
But as always, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share the content. And make sure to hit that notification bell so you never ever miss another video. But without further ado, let's get into our video. Okay, starting off first, we have Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria at welterweight. So let's break it really quick. These two are very entertaining to watch and bring a lot to the sport. However, we are talking about Ilia moving up a weight class and having to get used to a different level of power and a different type of tempo for a long time. The welterweight division, and still to this day, the division has some of the hardest hitters and some of the most technical fighters. So it's a matter of, can Ilia keep up with Islam and can Ilia catch him, which I don't see happening. So we're going to put the stamp of approval and say yes, it should happen. But now we have John Jones versus Alex Pereira at heavyweight. Now I know originally this was talked about for the UFC White House card, but logically, what is the point of this fight? John has already accomplished what he wanted and proved he is the GOAT. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, she's just a fan. No. Logically, you just need to go back and watch his fights. And that's it. But him fighting Alex could be interesting because, honestly, I want to know if John tries to play with him mentally and go at Alex's pace and then catch him. But should it or shouldn't happen? In my opinion, no, it shouldn't happen. It just doesn't make sense for it to happen. Like, it just doesn't not make sense. But next up, I think you guys are going to be intrigued by this one. We have Carlos Prates versus Michael Venom Page at welterweight. Now, I can see this most definitely happening. Now, at first, I felt a way about a Venom Page because I just thought he would just run away a lot. But then I learned more about his background and him doing karate. And it made more sense. Now, do I think he should throw more punches? Yes, of course I do. But if he goes against Prates, what will happen is the question. And the only answer we have is we have to wait and see. I would say Carlos adds a lot of attraction to this fight, not just for going at it with him at a press conference, but because his striking is unbelievable. I mean, he's in the top 10 for a reason. But do we think it should or shouldn't happen? I think it can do a lot of good and no harm can be done with making this fight happen, and it would make a lot of people happy, and I think it makes sense. So, but this next one, I'm not really so sure about. Khamzat moving up to light heavyweight to fight Yuri. To me, I can see it being a matter of who has better ground game, but if Yuri lands that punch on him, it's lights out logically. I don't think it makes sense because Yuri has to be able to stop the takedowns. However, as much as I am a fan of Khamzat, he has, which anybody with common sense would be a fan of him, but his striking is just not up to par. And it shouldn't happen. No. We are going to move on to our next fight. It's Volkanovski versus Movsar Evloev, which this is if Volkanovski keeps the title against Lopez. So I just don't think Mozart deserves it. And a lot of people are going to come for me, but it just doesn't make sense. I think he needs another fight before he gets to it. So, but Ilya Topuria versus Armin is even worse. Why do people want to see this? There's so many better options for these two to fight. And logically, them going against each other, it shouldn't happen. So, and then Joshua Van versus Tatsuro versus Tara, which that was a very sad day for us all for when Marina lost. But whatever. This fight, I really don't see happening because for Josh's first title defense, I just don't see him as a title contender. But with Joshua Van, okay, I'm going to say this, and you guys don't come for me. If Pantoja didn't tap when he broke his elbow or his shoulder, Van would not be champ. You're literally champ because someone got hurt. So don't even. And I like Joshua Van, but dude, you got lucky. But should this fight happen? No. I think there are more deserving people for this fight than him. But at number 8, we have Mackenzie Dern versus Zhang Weili. Now, this fight is going to be a lot of striking. I see that happening. Weili is getting a lot stronger in the ground game, but with Mackenzie Dern, you're going to have to catch her to get her to the ground. I think this is one of those fights that can do that. So it should happen. But number 9, we have Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje. These two men are two people that go to war. So it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a mess. And I think it does a lot of good for this sport. And it could be fight of the year. So it should happen. But lastly, we have Michael Morales versus Carlos Pratas. I mean, Michael, he's a hard hitter, but so is Carlos. Are they evenly matched? I don't think so. But I guess I could see it happening. I guess it is what it is. But as always, I'm your host, Sophia. And make sure to follow all of our social media for Combat Talk. And then make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share the content, hit the notification bell so you never ever miss another episode of Combat Talk. This Tuesday's Combat Talk Hot Takes. Now, I want you guys to know, there's going to be a new segment we're doing for the show. And also, tune in Friday, because we have a fight interview. You guys should stay tuned for that. But make sure you guys tune into that, and I will see you guys soon. Bye, guys.